Welcome back to the Sports Lab podcast. Got it right this time. Um, we're
Yes,
doing
sir.
our
He was
show
right.
a little bit different this time. Instead of doing NFL first, we're actually going to get into college football right away because as we are recording this, they are releasing week 2 of the college football rankings. They're currently doing it right now on my phone. And we want to do our what we think the 12-team bracket should be, and then we're going to react
Is
to
it
what
on
the college
ESPN?
football.
So sorry to cut
Yeah,
you
it's on
off.
ESPN. Yes, it is on ESPN. We're going to react to what they have as their 12 teams, and we're going to say what we think the 12 teams should be. It'll probably be about the same, just different orders. But let's get right into it because they are announcing it as we speak. I am going to start first. So the one seed, that's a no-brainer. It's Oregon. Only Power 4 school other than Indiana and BYU that is undefeated, and obviously neither of them is going to be the one because they haven't really played nearly as good a school as Oregon. Then at the ranked 2, but the 5 seed I have is Ohio State. Obviously, they can't be a top 4 seed. If anyone's wondering, the top 4 seeds go to the 4 highest ranked conference champions, and then the 5th highest ranked conference championship also gets in. So my Ohio State not obviously being below Oregon, they can't be a top 4 seed right now. So I have Ohio State ranked second, but it's the 5 seed. Then I have Texas ranked third as the 2 seed. I have Indiana ranked 4 as the 6 seed. Tennessee ranked 5 as the 7 seed. BYU ranked 6th as the 3 seed. Penn State ranked 7th as the 8 seed. Notre Dame ranked 8th as the 9 seed. Boise State ranked 9th as the 10th seed. Alabama ranked 10th as the 11th seed. Miami ranked 11th as the 4 seed. And then Ole Miss ranked 12th and the 12th seed. I know it's a shocker. I'm pretty low on Penn State just because I think Drew Aller is dog shit. He is awful. I just don't trust him. And I guess the reasons why I have the teams ahead of them, Tennessee and BYU just have better wins than anything Penn State has had. And then Indiana's been more dominant than Penn State has, also being undefeated. So I understand Penn State's only loss is to Ohio State, but Indiana's just looked better. I just think they're the pure better team. So those are my rankings. What do you have for yours?
So real quick, number 1, I have Oregon. Let's just get that out of the way, clear,
Yeah,
cut, dry.
yeah,
Everybody has Oregon 1. Number 2, Ohio State. Their only loss is to that number 1 ranked Oregon team, and it was
by
by
one
one
in
fucking
Oregon.
point. In
Yeah,
Oregon, though. If that game's at the neutral site, Ohio State wins that game all day. I do think that Oregon is still a very good football team. Oregon's unbeaten right now. I have to go Oregon 1. Ohio State's still a very good team. They're number 2. Number 3, I have Texas. Our top 3 remain the exact same. 4 is where it gets a little tricky, but we'll get to that in a second. Texas has kind of stumbled these last couple weeks, but realistically, you can't really hate on them too much when their only loss is to Georgia, who's won the national championship 2 of the last 3 years. You just really can't stop them. Georgia's just one of those really good dominant teams. So go ahead and give me them at 3. Number 4, I'm going to go ahead and put Alabama. And I understand Alabama is one of those teams. And I only have Alabama so high because their losses right now are to Tennessee, who is really, really damn good. And then obviously they did lose to Vanderbilt. That one really trickles and it scares me a little bit. But Vanderbilt's been one of those shocking teams that have been able to get a lot of things done. I still think that Alabama has the right coaching staff, and Ryan Williams has been absolutely dominating as well. So I really think that Alabama, they're just one of those teams that play in one of the toughest conference in my opinion in the entire nation. So I do think that Alabama's still a good team. Number 5, I have Georgia. Just like the Alabama thing, they've really only lost to a couple of those really good teams. The only thing that you really can't excuse is that Ole Miss loss. That game really definitely made me drop them over Alabama. Number 6, though, we get back on track here, Tennessee. I think Tennessee's a really good football team. I just got to see something out of them with that rookie Nico Iamaleava. I think he's a really good freshman quarterback, true freshman as well, but I'm going to have to lean with my gut here, and that tells me Tennessee at number 6. Number 7 is BYU. I think BYU's had a couple really good statement wins. They almost lost to Utah. I get that, but they're still a very good football team. Number 8, I have Penn State. Yes, they haven't really beaten too many good teams, but it is Ohio State that they did lose to. That's the only game they've lost, and they kept it close for the most part in that game. Still think Penn State's a little bit better than Indiana just because I feel like they've proven it a couple more years in a row. And on top of that, I trust their situation a little bit better. Next up is number 9, Indiana. I think Indiana is still a very good football team. They've absolutely shocked me and everybody else's expectations this year, so I will admit that. But between them and Penn State, it was really close. I really had 8 or 9 there. I think they're interchangeable for me, but I still think Penn State's the better team. Number 10, I have Notre Dame. I think Notre Dame is just a very good football team. I think they're going to do solid this year, but I feel like Riley Leonard, if he can't run the ball, is going to have to hold him back in the passing game. He's not really one of those guys that can sit there and just throw the ball. He's a little impatient at times too, which scares me, but I still think they're one of the best teams in the country. Number 11, Ole Miss, which I see the rankings here. Yeah. Exact same as mine. I think Ole Miss is a very good football team. I think that win against Georgia really proved how good of a team they can be when the adversity is hitting them right in the face, and they did a great job in that game. It was a rainy game. That's why I scratched that one off the slate for Georgia. They're not used to those conditions considering they play in a dome. That's why, but I feel like Georgia's still a good football team. I think that Ole Miss is very good as well, though, so go ahead and give me Ole Miss at 11. And lastly, number 12 in my rankings is Miami. I think Miami's just one of those teams they're interesting, Like, I'm not sure how good Miami is. They barely lose to Georgia Tech, but they've also had a couple scares this year against California and a couple other teams. Even Duke was pretty close for the most part at the beginning. I do think that they're still a very good team. And then the last couple teams I want to mention here, Boise State and Texas A&M as my honorable mentions. I think they're both very good football teams, but I have so many really good football teams in my top 10. It's just top 12, really, that I really think that could make a run. So, unfortunately for Boise State and Texas A&M, they don't make the cut.
I guess the only thing I want to say to that is holy SEC bias.
Yeah, right.
I guess you just value playing in the SEC over everything else, which I can't blame you. How is Bama ahead of Tennessee? Tennessee has less losses, and they beat them.
Yes, very true. The thing is we're talking about this from an overall standpoint with the playoffs included coming up. I feel like that Alabama is just the better football team. They're built for playoff football.
Tennessee proved that they're the better team by beating them.
No, see, I get that, yes. But what I'm saying is, I don't know. I feel like it's just an outlier for me because Jalen Milroe didn't have a great game. He's had a couple games where he's looked pretty bad this year too. But
also, Georgia at 5 is laughable. Carson Beck is dog shit. He's been awful.
No, I agree. I agree 110%.
They barely scraped by Florida. They barely scraped by Florida, who was on their second and third string quarterback for the entire. He threw 3 picks and basically handed them the game, and then got completely dismantled by Ole Miss. How do you have Georgia as a top 5 team in this country with the way they've been playing?
I only have Georgia so high because of the fact that they lost to Ole Miss in a game that was a lot closer than it looked if it wasn't that pick six and stuff like that happened. That game was a lot
closer. Except for Carson Beck just kept turning the ball over.
The fact that they were even still in the game to begin with Carson Beck playing the way he was, says a lot about the team of Georgia.
He's been playing like that all year.
Exactly, and the fact that Georgia still has one of the best teams in the country, in my opinion, they're still at least top 12. And
top 12-ish.
Yeah, they're still top 12 with Carson Beck being the way he's been playing. I have them going so much higher because of the fact that they've been winning in spite of Carson Beck being complete ass on the road. They can't get anything for the life of them on the road. And one of those losses is to Texas, who was the number 1 ranked team in the country at one point. We both have it 3. Oh, no, they beat. Sorry,
they lost to Bama. They lost to Bama and Ole Miss.
Lost to Bama. They came back and almost beat Alabama. If it wasn't for the
Carson Beck threw a pick.
Yeah, but that's very true. That's on Carson Beck. But that's the thing is if you take away probably 3 really bad plays from Carson Beck, this team could be unbeaten right now. And that says a hell of a lot about the team of Georgia to begin with. And on top of that, playing in the SEC, the toughest conference in the nation. I'm sorry, but I think that they're a very good football team. I do think that you could really argue Tennessee over Bama and Georgia. Tennessee 4, and then Bama 5, Georgia 6. And I guess, that kind of would make a lot more sense considering I put Bama over Georgia because Bama beat Georgia. So in that sense, yes, it would have made a lot more sense. But, I just kind of made this as I went. I do think that they're still very good teams, but it's interesting to see how this works. Also,
so you really don't care that much about the regular season. It's just who you think the best team is the best team. Your resumes don't really mean shit. because
Yeah.
BYU has a way better resume than any of those schools. They're undefeated. They've beat multiple ranked schools. They're blowing everyone out. Boise State is blowing everyone out.
If BYU plays Alabama, BYU is losing.
I can't necessarily say that. You also I just like to look at resumes, and it's not
Also,
fair. BYU's
BYU
playing who
is
they play.
third.
They're because they're
the division.
they're ranked sixth. They're ranked sixth because
Yeah, I
they're
see
looking
it.
at resumes. They're not just like I see how you're ranking. It's just you're doing more of like a power rankings and not really a resume ranking. I guess I'm
No, I
doing a
thought that's
resume
what this
ranking.
was like a power ranking.
Well, I guess when I do rankings, I do it based on resume for college football because not everyone plays different teams. And then I think you're at way too low on Boise State. They've blown out everyone they've played, and then the one time they go and play Oregon and they lose by 3 points. They have the best player in the country right now.
No,
That you
no,
gotta give
that's
you gotta
true.
give them
That's
credit
true.
for that.
See, that's why I put them on my honorable mentions. It's just who are you going to take out of my top 12? Because I had Miami, Ole Miss, Notre Dame, Indiana, Penn State, BYU, Tennessee, Georgia, Bama, Texas, Ohio State, Oregon.
Ole Miss, Bama, Notre
You
Dame.
can't take Ole Miss out after they just beat Georgia.
You can because I think Boise State's better. I think Boise State would beat Bama.
Whoa.
I think Boise State would beat Miami.
Oh, that's that. I can see that. Yeah.
I think Boise State could beat Notre Dame.
Yeah.
I think Boise State can basically beat any team on this list. They went into Oregon and they lost by 3. Ashton Jeanty is the equalizer. He is so good that they're putting. I understand he's playing worse competition, but they're literally putting 8 to 9 players in the box every single play, and he's still running for 150 yards and 2 touchdowns at least every game.
Yeah. No.
And they have a competent quarterback who 2 weeks ago they were just loading the box, and every time they saw Jeanty, they just ran towards him. They have a competent quarterback that can hit the throws when you load the box against Boise State. I don't know. I just think he is just that good where he's the equalizer. Yes, they're not obviously these teams aren't as talented, but he is the best player in the country.
Yeah, where'd you put Boise State?
I have them as the 10 seed, but 9. I have them ranked ahead of Miami, Bama, and Ole Miss.
Oh, okay. I don't hate that. I really just think that Boise State's got to show me, like, they got to have that SEC win. And again, I guess it gets back to that bias.
That's not fair, though. They don't play anyone in the SEC. That's not fair.
No, I'm not saying necessarily SEC. I'm just saying they got to be able to beat that really good team, like really, really good team.
I guess I don't know. I guess
if they beat somebody, I understand they beat a couple of teams that are ranked. They've been close with ranked teams. They have to beat somebody in the top 10 in order to be in the top 10.
I think that's BS because it's not their fault that they played one team this year that's in the top 10, and it was Oregon, who they lost to by 3. I just don't think that's really fair.
I guess so, yeah.
Because they're dominating the teams they play. I guess I don't know. I just feel like you're not really valuing beating the teams that are on your schedule. Like you're just you're in the SEC. You're obviously
I'm not devaluing that. I'm just saying that I understand, and I will 110% die on this hill. Ashton Jeanty's the best player in college football right now. Yes. But that defense could not stop a team like Bama, could not stop a team like Georgia, Tennessee, Texas, Ohio State, Oregon. They can't stop them. In order to be ranked in the top 10, though, they have to beat somebody that's a top 10 caliber team. And I understand they don't play anybody in the top 10 other than obviously the number 1 ranked team.
Why is Notre Dame in your top 10? They haven't beaten anyone that's a top 10 caliber team.
I only have Notre Dame in here because of like this not playing in a conference. I only have Notre Dame because I have to have one independent school.
Didn't you have Indiana at 9, Penn State Penn State at 8? They haven't beaten any top 10 schools.
Penn State's been close with Ohio State, just like
Boise State was closer with Oregon.
Yeah, that's true. Yes, that is true. But
sorry, I just love Boise State because I called it for them to make the college football playoff. Half of my bracket may be screwed, and then Oklahoma State pick is looking really, really bad. Yeah. Since they're 3-7, But I was
Remember
I
at the
had it
beginning
on
of
the
the year
call.
picking Ollie Gordon to win Heisman?
Yeah, both of us
Oh,
did. That was rough.
those were
And
some
then yeah,
bad days, man.
yeah, I Oklahoma State and Utah being the two best teams in the Big 12. Rough. And they're a combined 7-13 right now. Yeah,
Ooh.
yeah, it's pretty rough. But I
Jalen
got
Brunson
Boise
left our
State.
game tonight with an
Yeah.
injury, by the way.
See, I got because trying to think of who I predicted that's in there right now: Oregon, Ohio State, Boise State, Texas,
I'm
um,
interested to see what Boise State does. See, the one
and
thing
then
is
Bama,
I'm on the
and then I
Boise
think
State
Notre
hype
Dame. I think
train
I'm
a
six
little
of them.
bit, but I really just want to see them beat a team that's really, really good. And if they beat that team that's really, really good, I'm completely bought in.
They don't face any team like that. So they literally. So you're saying they can never enter your top 10 until the college football playoffs?
No, I'm not saying that. All I'm saying is I need to see them at least, how would I put this? Who do they have on their schedule?
A bunch of crap teams left. They play in a bad division. Yeah, they don't play good teams, but they're blowing the crap out of all of them.
Yeah, it doesn't mean anything, though. That's like if you put Alabama in their conference, and it's like Alabama's 12th ranked team in the country now because Alabama's playing a bunch of trash teams.
If they're blowing them out, they're blowing them out.
Yeah, that's fair, but at the same time, man, like
They're playing who's on their schedule,
I'm
and they're
not
dominating.
I'm not devaluing
They
them
play
beating the
San
team.
Jose State, Wyoming, and Oregon State.
Oh, Jesus. Yeah. So what I'm saying though is I'm not devaluing them beating the teams that are on their schedule. You're overvaluing how much it means to beat those teams.
No, I'm not overvaluing. I'm just you're play who's on your schedule, and you gotta value winning at some point instead of just being and playing tougher
At some
opponents.
point, I would value it at some point. It's just this is the first year they've done this. If they go on a heater again next year, do the exact
Well,
same
they're
thing.
not going to because Genti's going to be gone. But
Exactly.
I don't look when I'm looking at teams. What you did last year, especially at this point, what you did last year means absolutely nothing to me. I pretend last year didn't exist, and this is the first year of college football ever. I'm basing everything solely 100% off this year. I don't care that they weren't that good last year. I don't care that Penn State's been doing it longer than Indiana. Who has looked better this year?
That's fair. That is fair.
That's fair. And I understand your point too. I guess it's just the way we look at things differently.
Right.
I guess we can live react to the do they have I'm trying to see if they have it listed somewhere. Um
Yeah, I don't see it anymore. It's showing the Kentucky versus Duke game now. Don't get me wrong,
okay.
game, but
I
still.
was gonna take a screenshot and I forgot, but maybe ESPN will have it updated on their app. They have all the rankings updated for the games, but they
Boise
don't.
State was 12. 11 was Old Miss, I
Well,
think.
Boise State was ranked 13th, and then and Georgia was ranked 12th, but Boise State got in because they're like the group of five school.
Oh yeah, right. That's true. One of them has to make it.
Yeah, let's see if they have. Okay, so they don't have the full rankings, but I'll see if I can try and look through. Oregon, yeah, 1, Ohio State 2, Texas 3, Penn State 4.
Whoa, Penn State's at 4. Oh my god.
Yeah,
Of course they are.
well, because the college football playoff is kind of similar to they do it similar to me. They look more so at resumes. So they have like Bama and Georgia and stuff way lower.
Yeah, but
Okay,
at
so
the
it's
same time, you can't put Penn State over a team like Bama or Georgia when Penn
they,
State hasn't beaten anybody good.
but they're but the thing is they're a Power Four school. They were ranked high to start the year, and they have a better
Who's number
record.
5? It was Tennessee 5?
No, it's Oregon, Ohio State, Texas, Penn State, Indiana, BYU, Tennessee, Notre Dame, Miami, Bama, Ole Miss, Georgia. They value Indiana and BYU being undefeated.
So
And then
Georgia's
Penn State's only
12.
loss being a close loss to Ohio State. They value that highly.
Ole Miss is 11, which I got right. Where was Bama's 10, right?
I think so.
Yeah, Bama's 10. And then Notre Dame, BYU, and Tennessee.
Yeah. And then LSU's looking worse and worse, which is good for the Gators because this is the win they need. If Florida wants to be bowl eligible, they have to win this week, or they have to beat Ole Miss next week. In Ole Miss, I'm pretty
Tennessee
sure. Oh no,
6.
but yeah, Florida hosts LSU this week.
BYU 7.
LSU is only favored by 4.5. Lagway should be back for this week. This is a legitimate game Florida can win. And then they move to 5-5 with Ole Miss and Florida State left in their schedule. I think they beat Florida State, so then they can move to 6-6 because they probably lose to Ole Miss, and then they become bowl eligible. That's the ultimate goal.
Wait, what's Miami's ranking? Miami's 9.
9.
That's crazy.
It's probably because they're a Power 4 school with only one loss.
But they lost to Georgia Tech.
Yeah, but
they almost lost to California.
Yeah, but for the college football playoff for the resume, they look at record a lot. If you have one loss, you're going to be higher than basically every school that has 2 losses.
Yeah, it's stupid.
They do it based off resume, not as much based on power rankings.
Then why is it a rankings then? Why is it a rankings then, though?
They rank it similar to me. They do it based on resume.
No, I know. I'm just saying
the most deserving.
They basically do who's
though. Because if they want, they're picking. If the season ended today, these are the 12 teams that they think are the most deserving to make it in.
Yes, but at the same time,
and they think beating, even if you're playing a weaker schedule, winning is more valuable than losing to better teams. That's basically what they're saying. Yeah. They think it's more deserving that you win and beat the teams on your schedule than lose, even if it's against a really good team like the SEC schools are all doing to each other.
Yeah, that's fair. You got like 5 of them in the top 10 too.
Yeah, it's funny for the
top
Big 10. Big 10, 4 of the top 5 schools are all from the Big 10, and then not a single Big 10 school after that's ranked. I'm pretty sure.
I can't wait to see what Indiana does, dude. I really can't.
Yeah, next week's their test.
I'm praying to God Indiana does not finish as the 5 seed. Just please.
Well, they won't because they're playing Ohio State.
Oh, thank God. Perfect.
Yeah,
only because if Indiana's number 5, that's when the conferences end and stuff. They'd play Boise State, and I don't want them to play each other in the first round because then one of the 2 underdogs would lose instantly.
I think Boise State, if they just went out, I think if they ended up with a 1 loss as the conference champ, I think the way these schools are beating each other up, I think they end up higher than 12.
Who, Boise State?
Boise State, because Georgia and Tennessee still have to play each other.
If Georgia loses that game, Georgia's out instantly.
Yeah. Like Indiana, Ohio State still have to play each other. Georgia and Tennessee still have to play each other. Upsets happen.
I think Tennessee could beat Georgia. Could beat Tennessee. I think they could.
Well, let's see. Where is it? Okay, it's at Georgia, so I agree. If it was in Tennessee, no shot in hell because Carson Beck can't play if he's not
on the road. Is just bad.
Yeah. And then like a Miami could lose again, or like a BYU could get upset, or Indiana could lose more than just to Ohio State. So I think if Boise State wins out and wins the Mountain West, I think they end up finishing higher than 12 just because I think schools ahead of them will not win out. Like, again, Tennessee v. Georgia, Ohio State versus Indiana. Let's see if there's any
Tennessee beats Georgia, then obviously, Boise
Texas A&M.
Texas A&M
Tennessee
loses that.
Tennessee versus Vandy. Vandy already upset Tennessee. Even though Auburn's awful this year, the Iron Bowl always can be a big thing for upsets. Like, can never count out Auburn there. So, like, there's definitely opportunities for teams ahead of them to lose. Miami, Syracuse, maybe that could be a game. Syracuse could get the upset.
Please.
Also, shout out to Colorado. If Colorado wins out, I think they can make it in. Or if Colorado wins out, actually, they do make it in because they get an automatic bye. Because they're right now, if they win out, they're in the Big 12 championship game. Yeah. Because they only have one in their conference, and then they face BYU.
I think they could beat BYU. I think it'd be
close. Think they could. I legitimately think I would like to see Colorado make it in.
That'd be interesting.
See all the haters' heads explode.
Yeah, right.
All right. Well, moving on from college football, we're going to move into NFL. So we're doing our NFL talk a little bit different, similar to last week.
Start with 10 and go to 1.
Yes, we're going to, instead of doing we did quarterback rankings last week, this week we're doing our top 10 teams in the league, our current top 10 teams. And then after that, we'll talk about our Bills like more in depth because, well, yeah. And then if there's any other games that we don't mention while talking about our top 10 teams that are important, we'll go over that. And then after that, we'll talk about the Sabres. And that's it for today's episode. Honestly, it might not be as long of one.
Yeah, for
Maybe.
once. We might
Yeah,
actually
it might not be 2 hours for once. But I will start. We'll put it into two chunks like we did last time.
10 to 6 and then 5 to 1.
Yep. So at
Okay.
10, I don't have it based on just how. I guess by doing these power ranks a little bit different than doing my college football. I'm not doing it just based on how they've played so far this year. I'm also projecting what I think going into the future a little bit. It's like a mixture of how they've played so far.
You got the Niners at 10. Got it.
No. I have the Texans at 10. I have the Niners at 9.
Okay.
I have the Steelers at 8, the Packers at 7, and the Vikings at 6. Again, obviously the Niners, I think with McCaffrey back, it takes the team to a whole other level. I think as he gets healthy and more into the groove, I think this team is just so good. I could realistically see a possibility where they win out the rest of the season, like they did 2 years ago when when they acquired him halfway through the year and they were like 4-4, and then they won out and won 13-4. It's kind of like they're acquiring him halfway through the year through a trade. So and the offensive line's playing pretty good. Kittle, obviously, he's playing really well. Brock Purdy plays good in that system. You have Debo, Juwan Jennings, and Pearsall have stepped up. The offense looks electric, and the defense has its playmakers. The Texans, I think they'll start to look better with Nico coming back. Their offense kind of really took a step back these last couple of weeks. Their O-line is awful, but adding Nico Collins back, I think he is solidified himself as a top 8 receiver in this league. It takes that offense to the next step. So not only because I have him in 2 fantasy leagues, I do like him. I'm excited for him to come back. The Steelers, they're 8-2. They just beat the Commanders. They have a great defense. Russell Wilson's actually really been cooking, so it's great to see that Russ is actually cooking for once. It's going back to his like 2021 self. He kind of is forgetting that Denver Broncos stint, so that's cool to see. But at the end of the day, it is Russell Wilson at age 36. I can't really put him too high until I see him do something in the playoffs or do it against like really, really good teams. Like the Ravens this week is the perfect chance for them to really show themselves. The Packers at 7, they're just an all-around, well-rounded team, very deep, great coached, good quarterback play, playmakers on defense, playmakers on offense. What's not to like about this team? And then the Vikings at 6, I've had to drop him a little bit because Sam Darnold has not been playing great football these last couple weeks. The loss of Christian Darrisaw has really kind of hurt this offensive line, hurt their run game, and then it's hurt Darnold. The ghosts are kind of coming back. If you want to say he's been kind of turning the ball over a little bit too much. I mean, they only scored 12 points against the Jacksonville Jaguars. So because of that, I had to drop him a little bit, even though they did come away with the win. We'll toss it over to you, Thomas.
Well, I want to mention some honorable mentions. I have the Falcons, Texans, Chargers, and Niners, who all did not make my top 10.
Let me do my honorable mentions then. Yeah, Chargers, Commanders, Falcons, and Bengals, I guess would be my honorable mentions.
Okay. I have the Falcons, Texans, Chargers, Niners, who all didn't make my list. The Niners are my number 11 team, and I was debating between them and who I have at number 10, just because I think the Niners are probably going to be very good for the rest of the stretch now that McCaffrey's back, and he actually had his week to warm up against Tampa, and now the schedule gets a little bit easier with them. And then the one team they play that's really good.
They have to travel to play us.
Yeah. What I was gonna say that the one game that really gets easier for them is that Bills game, because how do you beat the Bills? You run the ball, and not with McCaffrey,
and you throw it to the running back too.
Exactly.
So
I do think that their schedule gets infinitely easier because of that. But number 10, I have the Arizona Cardinals. It's time to put some respect on this team. They have finally found the one thing that I had been killing them for all season, and that was consistency. They hadn't been consistent, and they finally got it. They beat the Bears, who are dysfunctional. They beat the Jets, who are dysfunctional. They even toss in a win against the Niners and another win against the Rams. I understand the Rams were really beat up at the time, but still very impressive games. They kept it close with the Bills. They've kept it close with a couple teams. They even beat the Chargers in this stretch as of late. Honestly, destroying the Jets last week in a game that felt like a must-win for the Jets is absolutely amazing for them. They've been so much better at home, too, than anyone has really given them recognition for. I think they've only lost one game at home this year. So, realistically, they've looked very good. Number 9, I have the Vikings, and I still think they're a very good football team, but here's the deal. The turnovers are starting to hit. They're hitting a wall right now. And if it wasn't for playing Joe Flacco and Mac Jones, they probably lose to both of those last 2 games if it wasn't just complete dysfunction on the other team's quarterback side. Mac Jones turned the ball over way too much in a 12-7 loss. That game was absolutely abysmal to watch if anybody did watch it. On top of that, that last game on Sunday night, Darnold was he was terrible on that Sunday night game. He had a couple touchdown passes, especially the one right at the end that felt like a garbage time touchdown. But either way, the Vikings are starting to fall down my rankings a little bit. As soon as they hit the stretch of these good teams when they have to play the Packers again and the Lions again, I don't think that they're going to be able to compete with how they've been playing. So they're going to drop down a little bit. They're still in my top 10. They're still a very good team. They just got to kind of fix these little kinks right now, which they haven't done. Anyway, number 8, I have the Green Bay Packers. Packers are a very good football team. They're coming off the bye week, finally being able to get a little bit healthier. One thing about this Green Bay Packers team that's been making me a little nervous about them is Jordan Love's health being up in the air. He hasn't been fully healthy. Honestly, if it wasn't for that pick 6 against the Lions, they would have only lost that game by 3 points with an injured Jordan Love and Josh Jacobs playing in that game. Romeo Doubs coming back for the second half being injured as well. So realistically, this Packers team is better than anyone's mentioning for them as well. I think they're a very good football team. They'll get it right now. Finally got a little bit of time to get healthy for once, and here they go. And I think they're going to hit a stretch, especially playing Chicago next week as a spoiler to Friday's episode. But number 8
Wait,
is
that's actually something I got to bring up. We will not be able to do a Friday episode. I can do Thursday, but we have the WBNY game night on Friday, so.
Oh, okay. We can figure something out, but we got it. Anyway, number 7, I have the Washington Commanders. I think they've looked absolutely great. And yes, I understand the look. I do think Washington's one of those teams right now where it's really hard to gauge whether or not they should be this high. I think this Eagles game on Thursday night is going to be the perfect game to decide whether or not they should or shouldn't be this high. They had a fluky win against the Bears on a Hail Mary, and then last week they kept it really close with the Steelers, who still, I think the Steelers are also a team that's very hard to gauge right now, considering they haven't played any of the division opponents, being the Ravens or the Bengals yet. So I feel like we're going to learn a lot about.
Not division, but the Chiefs are still a really good team they have to play.
Well, yeah, I know, but I'm saying we get to learn a lot about the both of these next 2 teams because I have the Steelers at 6. So we get to learn about the Steelers and Commanders a lot more this week, being that they play the Ravens and Eagles, who are 2 very good teams in their division that are challenging for the 1 seed in those divisions this week. I do think that the Commanders are still a very good football team. They've looked solid, and they finally upgraded their biggest weakness, which was a corner. They have been getting torched way too often. Ja'Marr Chase showed that in week 3, and ever since, it's just been absolutely abysmal from the secondary. Benjamin St-Juste and Emmanuel Forbes are not it. They really need to get someone else in there. They go out and they get Marshawn Lattimore, who will play this week on Thursday night. So I do think that's very important for them.
Oh, he didn't play last week?
No, he didn't. He ended up becoming an inactive because he just didn't – he came in.
No, that makes sense.
But number 6, I have the Pittsburgh Steelers. They're another one of those teams that are really hard to gauge. But right now, you can't just dispute the results of the Pittsburgh Steelers team right now. They are 7-2 for a reason. They've looked very solid in these games. I understand a little bit of a scare in a couple of these ones, but between back and forth with Fields and Wilson, the fact that they can still manage to win these games, this defense is just absolutely legit. We already knew that to begin with. The addition of Preston Smith, just as I predicted, is an absolute steal. Already had a sack in his Steelers debut last week. So I do think that he is very good for them as well. I do think Pittsburgh's going to I think that they'll lose to the Ravens. It'll be interesting. We'll see how it goes. But I do think that there's a chance that they lose to the Ravens this week. However, I think the Pittsburgh Steelers are still a very good football team, and I have them at my number 6, rounding out my first 5.
Yeah, I guess the only thing I have to say about I'm surprised you have the Commanders that high after how they've looked the last couple of weeks. Jane Daniels, while it hasn't been playing bad, has not looked anything special these last few weeks. Hasn't looked too great. I mean, they barely beat the Bears, who have looked awful these last couple weeks.
They put up 27. They put up 27 points on the Steelers without him getting a single touchdown.
Yeah, I get it. Yeah, he didn't have a great game. 50% completion percentage, 200 yards, and no touchdowns.
And they still scored 27 points on one of the best defenses in the league.
Yes, I will give you that, but they barely beat the Bears, who have looked awful ever since. They had to use a Hail Mary because Tyreek Stevenson is a complete retard. If he
To
had a
be fair,
single
the Bears
brain cell,
defense is really good too. So
yeah, but if Tyreek Stevenson has a single brain cell, they lose that game.
yeah, right.
They single one. He just needs one, legitimately one, but he clearly has zero. Um, but anyways, I'm just surprised you have them that high. I think they're going to be shown up by the team I have at my fifth spot on Thursday, the Philadelphia Eagles. I have Eagles at 5. I don't trust the coaching that much, but I think the roster is just that talented where it's going to overcome it. Jalen Hurts has been balling lately. Saquon Barkley is, in my opinion, the second best running back in football. I think they're.
Henry.
I would actually put third. McCaffrey, I think, is still one, even though he hasn't been playing. I think McCaffrey is still the
I
best
think
running
if
back in
anything,
football.
that just means how important he is because he hasn't been playing, and the Niners have sucked because of it.
Yeah, and then I think yes, Derrick Henry's been better this year, but I think there's a legitimate argument you could make to have Saquon over Derrick Henry because he's more dynamic. His ability as a pass catcher, he is also a great pass blocker. Derrick Henry, even with his size, isn't a great pass blocker. They never really have him in the pass block. They never really have him to receive. I
It's
understand they have
so funny
Justice
because
Hill,
they
but
they take out
Saquon's
like
a
the
build.
6'3",
Yeah,
230-pound running back for like a 5'11", 200-pound guy and Keaton Mitchell for pass plays, and it's like what?
yeah, I know. It's weird. I get it. Derrick Henry's definitely having the better season, but you can make an argument that Saquon is better because of how dynamic he is. He can offer you everything, unlike Derrick Henry, who is just he is the best pure runner in the league. That's no doubt.
Oh,
But
yeah.
not being a great pass catcher is why you could make an argument for Saquon being it. So the best second or third running back, a top 5 receiver. I genuinely think AJ Brown is that good. You saw how much he meant to that offense. There's when they struggled, their offense struggled earlier in the year. It was when AJ Brown was injured because he was in. They played he played week 1. Their offense was amazing. Then he gets injured. Then their offense struggles for a couple weeks, and then they play. And then he comes back week 5 or whatever, week 6 or whatever, and then their offense goes right back up and starts cooking again. Devontae Smith's another top 15 to 20 receiver in the league. Dallas Goedert's really good. The offensive line, well, not as good as last year, is really good. And then this defense is fully transformed from last year. Darius Slay has kind of taken over as a really good quarterback too now. He's not in his prime. He's not that elite shutdown guy, but he's good as a number 2, which is fine because Quinion Mitchell has been lights out this year. He has been
Dude.
a shutdown corner. And then Cooper DeJean's been great in the slot. Their safeties have been better. Their linebacking core, which was god awful last year, has been. I think it's Zach Bond has been PFF's highest rated. I understand it's PFF. It's been PFF's highest rating linebacker for 4 weeks in a row. And then they have one of the best run defense in the league with Jordan Davis and Jalen Carter. And then Bryce Huff's there. They just have a lot of playmakers on that side of the ball. I really like. I think it's Vic Fangio's the defensive coordinator, and he's always been known to be a great defensive coordinator. Like I still don't trust Sirianni as a head coach, but this team's just got so much going for him. I got to put him that high. And then I have the Baltimore Ravens at 4, best offense in the league, but this defense is awful. And I mean, awful defense. You've never really seen awful defenses go that far in the playoffs, no matter how good the offense is. So because of that, I can't
Bills,
put them.
Chiefs in
What?
21.
Yeah, exactly. The Chiefs, their defense.
The Bills in 2021. If we had a little bit better defense, win the Super Bowl.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, we had a good defense. Injuries is really what kind of killed us. But
Well, yeah.
plus, and Leslie Frazier, that's all that needs to be said. One of the worst defensive coordinators I've ever laid my eyes on. I hate him with a burning passion.
Defense.
We can get into that another time. But yeah, Ravens at 4, Lamar, Derrick Henry, absolute elite duo. Zay Flowers, stud. Mark Andrews, a stud. Offensive line's been playing better. The defense has some playmakers, but they're getting torched. I mean, part of it is Burrow and Jamar Chase being that good, but they've got torched by a lot of different teams. And if Bo Nix wasn't dog shit, the Broncos would have put a lot of points on him. There was wide open people. He was just missing them because he sucks. And then at number 3, I have the Buffalo Bills. I get it. When we played the Ravens, we lost by 25 points, but we were without Amari Cooper, Khalil Shakir for like parts of the game because he got injured, Matt Milano, Terrell Bernard, and Teron Johnson. Those are our 3 most important defensive players. Of course, they're going to score a lot of points on us without our 3 most important defensive players.
And we were right there in that game.
And we had a chance of coming back in that game. It was
flea
21 to
flicker.
10. It was 21 to 10, and we
Yep.
run a retarded trick play because Joe Brady decided he wanted to get fancy for some reason. We're driving down the field. We at least are probably getting a field goal to make it a one-score game. But we're driving down the field, calls this retarded trick play, and then Josh gets his arm gets hit as he tries to chuck it deep, fumbles it, they go right down and score. It's 28-10. And also, Josh had, I think, 3 plays of 40. He had like 100 yards in drops. Like, our receivers were not giving him anything in that game. Now we get an Amari Cooper who hasn't played these last couple of weeks, but he'll be healthy soon. Keon Coleman will be back by playoff time for sure. Khalil
Oh, yeah.
Shakir, obviously. And then their emergence of Ray Davis. Plus, our defense is finally getting healthy with, you see how important Terrell Bernard and Teron Johnson are to this defense. They are, and Matt Milano's coming back. His practice window opened up this week. Like, this defense is getting there, and it's been playing better as it's been getting healthier. So I just the Bills are just a much more balanced team than the Ravens. And when it comes down to it, which quarterback do I trust more? I trust Josh Allen more, especially in the playoffs. He's proven to be a way better playoff performer than Lamar. So because of that, I have the Bills ahead of the Ravens. But then there's a gap between the next two teams. Like the Chiefs and Lions, spoiler alert, they're 1 and 2. If you don't have the Chiefs and Lions at 1 and 2, you're stupid. It's just, you can debate which order you want. They're the 2 best teams in football right now. Personally, I have the Detroit Lions at number 2, just because they have a loss and the Chiefs do not. And I am not betting against the Kansas City Chiefs until they start losing because they just win. They just win. I don't know what devil voodoo magic bullshit's going on, but they just win. They just find ways to win. And until they start losing games, I'm not I can't punish them, even if they're winning against a Broncos team off of a blocked field goal. Like, they're winning. They're winning. They're finding ways to win. So because of that, I have the Chiefs at 2, but at 1, and the Lions at 2. But the Lions do look like the more impressive team for sure. The offense, they have the best offensive line in football. They have the best running back duo in football. They have a top 5 to 7 receiver in football. They have a top 10 tight end. They have a very good quarterback. They have the best offensive coordinator in football. They have one of the best defensive coordinator in footballs. They have one of the better defenses in football. They have one of the best head coaches in football. They legitimately do not have a hole, except for maybe the secondary. You can kind of get after that secondary a little bit.
It's been holding a little too much.
The corners, if you have an elite quarterback with decent wide receivers, can definitely hold his own against this Lions secondary, because, well, the corners, at least, not the safeties. They're not great. They're a little holdy. You can kind of get after them a little bit. That's really their only weakness. But even then, they're still very good. So the Lions look like the best team in football, but the Chiefs are 9-0. So I have them as the best team in football. Pat Mahomes is enough said.
Yeah, I agree with the number 5 through. I agree with everything. Basically, number 5, I have the Philadelphia Eagles. They're a very good football team. The one weak link has been Jalen Hurts, and he finally started to turn it up. He's been able to run the ball efficiently. He hasn't made those stupid throws. He's kind of turned into Josh Allen in 2020, where in 2019, Josh Allen was trying to force it into windows and stuff instead of taking the free yards on the running game. In 2020, Josh Allen decided, instead of throwing stupid plays, I'm just going to run with the ball if I see an opening, and that's exactly what Hurts has been doing. He's been able to just kind of survey the field a lot better, that poise, that confidence in the pocket. He's been able to move around really, really well. Mobile quarterback, obviously, but this is the different kind of mobility that you need in the NFL nowadays, is to be able to navigate the pocket, which a lot of quarterbacks can't do. But he's been doing very well these last couple weeks. I do think that they are the best team in the NFC East, and they are the second best team in the NFC. They are very, very good right now, and they're exactly what I thought they would be where they are right now. I think that they're one of the best teams in football. Moving on to number 4, I have the Baltimore Ravens, again, for a lot of the things you said. Josh Allen and this Bills team, if it wasn't for a trick play, potentially steal all the momentum and come back and win that game. If it wasn't for a late last-second comeback attempt getting shut down by a 58-yarder, I think it was, by Kiami Fairbairn in Houston, the Bills wouldn't have lost that game either. So 2 games that we almost came back in, games where we really shouldn't have even been close in, considering how poor we played against 2 of the best teams in the AFC. And finding ways to make plays like that is just something you need to do to be able to win these games. For Baltimore, they still have one of the best running backs and one of the best quarterbacks in the league, or I should say the best running back duo. But I think that they're still a very good team. I think that Lamar's looked great. He's definitely the front runner for MVP right now, especially after the performance Allen had against the Colts,
Allen
unfortunately.
locked himself in it too, though, because all the other contenders either lost or sucked.
Yeah, but at the same time, though, Baltimore's still a very good team, and I have to put them here at 4. Number 3, Josh Allen and this Bills team. While we looked sluggish in the first half against the Dolphins and many points against that Colts team as well, they still found a way to put up 30 points in back-to-back games in that situation. We are averaging 29.1.
We've put up 30 points in every game since the Texans game.
Yeah, we are averaging 29 points in each
since
game.
the Jets game.
Yeah, but we're averaging 29 points a game this season, which is the league high. I think actually no, second in the league to Detroit, I believe, but still
ahead of the Ravens.
I believe so, yeah.
Oh, interesting.
But either way, the Bills have been absolutely phenomenal this year. They have 29 points per game. They've looked great in these games. And this is the real big test. They play Kansas City this week at home, obviously. So this is a very, very big test for them to see how good Buffalo truly is. I do think that the Bills are still a very good football team, but number 2, I have the Kansas City Chiefs. And yes, while a lot of people have the Lions at 2 and a lot of people have the Chiefs at 1, I think that the Lions are the team that have played more impressive football. And the one thing about the Chiefs that you can say that you couldn't say about the Lions until this week against Houston was that they hadn't won in spite of someone on the team, that specifically being their quarterback. The Chiefs have won a couple games in spite of Patrick Mahomes playing like complete dog shit. The Lions have only won games.
Now, here's a guy.
Yeah, right.
Patrick Mahomes. Even when he plays like dog shit, just looks so good. I mean, he is the greatest. I mean, like Patrick Mahomes.
But either way, man, for Jared Goff, the one loss for the Lions this year was the one game Jared Goff played bad, and that was the game against Tampa Bay where he threw 3 interceptions. And they had to prove to me that they could win a football game with Jared Goff playing like shit, and that's exactly what they did this past weekend against Houston. 5 interceptions, albeit I get one was tipped. I get one was at the end of the first half. That's still 3 that are inexcusable on his behalf. I really just can't see a world where you win a game after throwing 5 interceptions, but they found a way to do it. Good teams find ways to win.
$35.
Yeah, right. That's good. But I think here's the main thing for them, though, is good teams find ways to win games they should not win. And that's exactly what the Chiefs and Lions have both done. It's just which one's been more impressive in the games they should have won. And that, in my opinion, has been the Detroit Lions. They have not won off bullshit flags or lack thereof flags. They have won purely because they are the better team against the teams like Dallas, against the teams like Tennessee. They were games we expected them to blow them out by 20-plus points, and that's exactly what they did in both contests. Compared to the Chiefs, where we expect them to blow out the Broncos, and they win because of a blocked field goal on the last play of the game. The Chiefs have found ways to win in stupid fashion, while the Lions have actually lived up to their expectations, and that's the reason I have Detroit at number 1 over Kansas City. I think both teams are very good. My Super Bowl prediction being the Chiefs-Lions is looking pretty damn good right now. Also, my number 1 seed in each conference was the Chiefs and Lions. Bills were number 2. Ravens were number 3, 1, 2, 3. And in the NFC, it was the Lions, Eagles, 49ers. So literally my top 3 in each conference are looking perfect right now.
Well, and that's the Niners have to go in a heater, but yes. I want them to.
With the Niners having McCaffrey back, it's looking pretty good.
Yeah, I need that to happen because I have a $5 to win $985 division winners that I did to start the season, and it's actually looking really good. It's Bills, Ravens, Texans, Chiefs, Eagles, Lions, Falcons, Niners. I could cash it. Yeah, I could cash it out right now for like $80 or something because like it's looking really good. So like the cash out's going up every week, but like I still trust them. Like after this week, I feel like if the Ravens, Eagles, and Niners all win, that number will go up even a lot more because then they're all going to be in like the driver's seat to win their divisions.
And they won the first game.
I could cash it out right now for $73.41, but I'm not doing that because I want to win a grand instead. And I genuinely think those teams win their divisions. I'm not saying that because I bet on them. I think the Ravens are better than the Steelers, the Eagles are better than the Commanders, and the Niners are better than the Cardinals with McCaffrey. That's and then the other divisions are locked, basically. Lions locked, Bills, there's a world that the Bills could have this division locked up by the Lions game, I think. By like week 13.
What do you bet on again?
FanDuel.
Me too. Me too.
Yep. And then because Bills lock, Chiefs lock, Texans, even though they're trying their hardest to sell it, still a lock, especially with the tiebreaker over the
The
Colts.
Chiefs, obviously.
Yeah, the Chiefs and the
even if they lose to the Bills, I don't think they lose to anybody else.
Yeah, Bills, Chiefs, Lions, Texans, and Falcons are basically all locks. So it's really up to the Eagles, Ravens, and Niners. Those are the three that can sell me, but I still trust them. Moving on, though, the Bills did play a football game. A football game did happen in Indianapolis on Sunday as the Bills defeated the Colts 30-20. We did kind of get into it a little bit when we were talking about our top 10 teams, but being Bills fans, we'll get into it a little bit more now. Josh Allen had, in my opinion, his worst game of the season. I think this game was worse than the Texans game, even though his numbers looked better. Because in the Texans game, just nothing, no one could get open. In this game, people are open. He just missed some throws. He had two awful interceptions. He missed Kincaid on a wide open touchdown. While I do blame Kincaid a little bit, I think elite tight ends do make that catch. I genuinely think that. Where if he wants to become elite, he should make that catch. Right. Bad throw by Josh Allen. Mostly to blame him, a little bit for Kincaid, because if he wants to be in that, take that next step as a tight end, he needs to make that. But at the same time, Josh had 330 yards from scrimmage with Matt Collins being his wide receiver 1. So even him playing a bad game, he still made the plays needed. He still led us on a couple of touchdown drives. Overall, I thought we still had a pretty good game. We were able to move the ball pretty good on a bad Colts defense. Josh still made some really good throws, like the one he was out to his right and hit Matt Collins 40 yards down the field on third down. He had a couple of really nice rushes. One for a touchdown, one that was almost a touchdown before James Cook punched it in. And then defensively, our pass defense looked as good as ever. Yeah, they got a garbage touchdown there at the end, but it was really 30-13. 3 picks. Joe Flacco sucks. The fact that the Colts have Anthony Richardson on the bench in favor of Joe Flacco is baffling more and more every week. Like at first it was like, all right, I think it's stupid because you should be putting an AR for the experience. It's only like 10 games started. But if you genuinely want to make a playoff push and you thought Joe Flacco was giving you a better chance to win, it's like, all right, I get it. At this point, Joe Flacco is not giving you a better chance to win. He has thrown, 5 or 6 interceptions in 2 weeks now. He is playing worse than Anthony Richardson ever did. Like, he is playing awful. He is not giving you a better
against us
chance.
2 last week, and then 2 fumbles as well. One fumble against us, 1 fumble last week.
Yeah, he is not giving you a better chance to win right now. So why the fact that Anthony Richardson is not starting, it makes 0 sense at all now. Because 1, Anthony Richardson is the better quarterback, and 2, he is the future. It's stupid. The only thing that can make sense if they're just trying to hide his shoulder not being healthy and they're using this as an excuse to shut him down for the year so his shoulder can get healthy. That is the only explanation that makes any sense.
Yeah, exactly.
If his shoulder's just not it right now and they just want to sit him for the year because of that, if that's not the reason, then I just can't wrap my head around it. But moving back to the Bills, Teron Johnson, you're a beast. Terrell Bernard, you're a beast. Quentin Jefferson, you're looking like it was a good signing. Rasul Douglas, you had a couple really good plays. Damar Hamlin, you fucking suck. I hate you. Taylor Rapp, you're good. I love you. But Damar Hamlin, you suck ass. You are so bad at football. Do you know what an angle is? Do you know how to, when someone's running, you don't run where they were, you run where they're going to be. It's called an angle. Not run where you see them currently at, because by the time you get to them, they won't be there anymore because they're also moving. It's weird how that happens because DeMar doesn't understand that.
He clearly skipped physics class in college at Pittsburgh.
Yeah, it's like he's running like they're in freeze frame, and he's running to where they were every single time. And he's running in the wrong spot.
His whole life's a movie now.
Yeah, every single time. It's like, what are you doing? You're supposed to take an angle and run where they are going, you idiot.
Yeah, right.
Please put in Cole Bishop immediately. Damar Hamlin sucks at football. He is so dog shit.
Yeah, like you mentioned with Cole Bishop, not Cole Bishop, but with Damar Hamlin, And I guess, like you mentioned, with Richardson and Flacco, I feel like Cole Bishop's the future, and he's better than Hamlin, or at least he'd be around the same level as Hamlin at this point. It's just a body out there to begin with. But Taylor Rapp, very good plays in this game as well. Obviously, the defense, great. Teron Johnson, I love you for that pick six. We really needed it, especially because the offense, again, for another week, just couldn't get going. Other than that, honestly, I feel like this Bills offense is just we kind of have to accept that this first half is just not it for the Bills offense for some weird reason. They just kind of can't seem to get going at all. But I do think that we're going to be able to make up for it in the second
Except
half.
for on our first drive for some reason. It's like our first
Yeah.
drive sometimes we're insane. Or like we always have one drive in the first quarter where we're nuts, and then the rest of the first half are awful.
Yep, exactly. And so basically another thing on defense, I do think that the rush defense really does need to get better. But this week we had a lot of stops on like just 1 or 2, maybe even 3-yard gains a lot of the time. Obviously that big run by Taylor in the first quarter really kind of did us in. But at the same time, I'd rather give up just one big run and then stop them 95% of the time elsewhere. I feel like that's just kind of how we are trending towards these last couple of weeks. It's been what's happened to us. We just don't really give up those big hitters unless it's like once or twice, and then every other play is like 2 or 3 yard gains. But I do think nonetheless that the Bills' defensive line showed me a lot in this game, going up against a very talented Colts offensive line, in my opinion, at least. And they really put in the work. They got to Joe Flacco. Obviously, I understand Flacco's not mobile, so he can't really get out of the pocket. Also, they had that fourth down where if it was Anthony Richardson, they would have easily got it because he would have just ran for it. But Flacco, being Flacco, couldn't run. So he just kind of stayed in there and just hoping that someone got open, and no one did. But I do think for this Bills team, we're getting right at the right time. We've been able to get these wins these last couple of weeks. These have been a little bit of like messing with kind of the system. It's like your first day at work. They're trying to show you all the different gears, show you everything that's working or whatever. And now you're a year into it, and you're like, oh, yeah, I got this. It's all down. That's exactly what we need them to be on Sunday if we want any shot against Kansas City.
We need Amari Cooper back.
Win. Yeah, we really do. Keon Coleman already being ruled out. It's very tough for us.
Kincaid's probably not playing. It's probably
Matt
it's looking
Milano
like
is back for the 21-day practice window.
He'll be back for the Niners game, not this week.
Yeah, I know, but the fact that he's at least back in some capacity is really nice to see. Good for us. I'm also interested that Tyrell Dodson didn't want to come back to Buffalo. I saw a couple reports that he did not want to come back to the Bills.
He wanted to join the Miami graveyard.
Yeah, exactly. I guess so. But interesting enough to me because I feel like Dodson definitely would have made a lot more sense to come back to Buffalo. I mean, he knows the scheme. We already brought back Quentin Jefferson and Jordan Phillips, who both know the system as well.
And we're way better.
And on top of that, with Balen Spector on IR, we really did need a linebacker for these last couple weeks before Milano's return. Although I think he's just thinking long-term. He's thinking like as soon as Milano comes back, he's basically just riding the bench again. There's no way he takes Dorian Williams' spot on the other side when he's healthy, and neither Terrell Bernard either. But I do think that nonetheless, this Bills team, they showed up, they showed out in this game. Obviously, the turnovers really helped us in this one. The defense looked great. I do think that this offense does need to find some consistency in the first half, but outside of that, can't complain with a big win against the Colts. Funny enough, by the way, I had a 31-21 score prediction for this game, I swear, on everything.
I think mine was 31-13.
Huh?
I think mine was 31-13.
Yeah, and
it was 30-13 until the garbage touchdown.
Yeah, but 30-20 when I had 31-21 as my score prediction. My heart was ripped out of my chest for having a game correctly called this year. That was a Bills game at least, would have been fun. But nonetheless, I think that this is just one of those games for Buffalo. We had to win. We move on. We take a big win in Indianapolis for the first time since 1998 as well, which was a nice fun fact. But I think everybody and their brother is more interested about this game coming up against Kansas City.
Yeah, it's Kansas City hate week. But to all the people that want to say, oh, the Bills are 8-2 on a Fugazi record because they haven't played anyone, the Cardinals are 6-4. We played the Dolphins twice with Tua, and we know they're a playoff caliber team with Tua. They just have a bad record because he was injured. And also, we're just playing the teams ahead of us, and we're winning the games. Last year, we were 5-5 and had to claw our way to the playoffs because we lost the games that we should have won. The Jets week 1, the Patriots, the Broncos. So, yeah, I guess we haven't beaten the greatest teams, but we're beating the teams that we should. If we want to not have to claw our way into the playoffs, and we can get in the playoffs rested and healthy and in our groove, then yeah, we have to beat the teams we should beat along the way. And
Right.
that's where it's different from last year and in years past. Every year there was always the Bills would just drop a dumb game or two. We're just like the Jaguars, we lost 9-6, or when we got blown out by the Titans in 2020, and just or when we lost the Titans the next year, like when it seemed like we were a better team both times. Like just some
The Patriots last season.
the Patriots on that in the Wind Bowl. Just dumb losses where it's like, all right, we should be winning these games. It's dumb that we're losing them. Like we're losing to teams that are way worse than us that we shouldn't be losing to, or getting blown. And like we haven't really had those games. The only losses we have are to two good teams, the Texans and the Ravens. Like those are two pretty good teams. So like, yeah, I get it. We haven't beat anyone like great per se, but we're beating the teams we should. We're taking care of business. This next stretch is really going to show us, are we that team or not, as we do play three, in my opinion, when fully healthy, or by the end of the year, I think there'll be three of the top 5 to 7 teams in football, the two best teams in football. The Niners, I think, will get them up to a top 5 to 7 team in football. Plus the Rams, who, yes, they lost to the Dolphins. They still have Matthew Stafford, Cooper Kupp, Puka Nacua, and Kyron Williams. That quad with Sean McVay can beat anyone on any given Sunday.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see what we do down the stretch. Obviously, I think we play 3 of the best teams come playoff time, no matter what down the stretch here. I think the Niners, Lions, that was my NFC Championship game for this year, was the 49ers and the Lions. The Lions.
Mine's Lions Rams.
Oh, nice. Well, I had the Lions Eagles playing in the divisional, and I just can't see the Lions losing to the game against the Philadelphia team,
because they can match them in talent and kill them in coaching.
Yes, exactly. That's the big issue. But I do think that for like the Bills specifically, we're playing my 2 Super Bowl teams in the Lions and Chiefs as well. Obviously, this Chiefs game is really important. I'm not sure if you saw the stat yet or not, but since 1970, I think it was 1971, there's only been 4 games where 2 teams at this point in the season, week 11 or sooner, have played with 8 or more wins on each team. And the home team has won all 4 of those games. The Bills are.
And the Chiefs have been on the losing side of 2 out of those 4.
Yeah, the Chiefs have been in 2 of those 4 games. They haven't
been in 2013 and 2018.
2013 against Denver, 2018 against the Rams in that infamous game. Samson Ebukam, I love you for that.
I wouldn't hate if the Bills come away with a win like that 2018.
Oh, that'd be amazing. 54.
Just because I'm going to be at that game, that'd be absolute.
Oh, back and forth,
that would be fireworks.
Yes, sir. I do think that this,
as long as we come away with the win.
Yeah, right. I do think it'll be an interesting game. I think nonetheless,
I don't see it being like that. I think it'll probably be in the 20s, because that's usually the scores between the Bills and the Chiefs. Both teams score somewhere in the 20s.
Yeah, I had 27-24 this week for the score prediction for that. We'll get to that on Thursday's pod, I guess. Thursday works. But basically the one main thing here that I have to kind of get across is that this game, even though I think personally I don't think the Chiefs lose to anybody else, even if we beat them this week, the only thing that this really does solidify, though, is that no matter what, even if they win out, they'd have to play their starters in Week 18 in order to not lose the 1 seed against us, meaning that they would have to play Patrick Mahomes in Week 18 instead of getting 2 weeks.
Patrick Mahomes.
Yeah, right.
Now
instead of getting 2 weeks of rest, now they only get that 1 week and stuff. So I do think
sometimes hurt teams.
Huh?
The 2 weeks sometimes hurt teams, though.
Yeah, but not the Chiefs, dude. Their record after
they do it every. That's true. You're right. They do it every year.
Yeah, but that's the thing is this year specifically, this is still a very big game, even if the Chiefs don't lose again. But with how they've been playing, I mean, they look beatable in every facet. So there's a good chance that they could lose.
But they just find ways to win. All right, moving on. I guess. Well, no. Is there any NFL things we want to talk about? I guess Illuminor getting his contract extension with what's it called?
Diamador.
Diamador. I was saying
Lenore.
Diamador Lenore. That's what it is. cornerback for the Niners, getting his extension 4 years, 92 or 5 years. I didn't remember.
5 years, 18.4 a season.
Yeah, so big contract extension for him. Shout out to him. And then
Just
Jamal
want to say that
Agnew.
that's literally $1 million less than AJ Terrell.
Yeah, this looks
I
like
don't agree
it looks
with
like
this.
Benford's probably going to get more than that. Unfortunately, they got it done
I'm
before
very
Benford
upset
gets
about that. Yes, now that you mention that.
Benford's probably going to get like 5 by 100, and he deserves every penny of it.
Oh no, he does definitely. It's just that's
Yeah,
so
more salary cap we have to shell out.
Yeah,
Whatever.
like
We have the cap space right now because Bean did a great
knowing
job.
us, Bean's just gonna trade him away for like a 3rd round pick.
Shut up. He's not Brett Veach.
Yeah,
If Brett Veach can afford to do that because he has the best coaching staff in the league.
Yeah, right. But
we have Sean. We have Sean
McDumass
and we have Sean McDumass and Joe. I don't know. Play action Brady.
Yeah, I think the one thing for the 49ers here is realistically, since Richard Sherman left, they haven't had a cornerback that's been number 1 caliber in so long. And now they have Javarius Ward, who's definitely a solid number 2, and then Lenore, who's a 1. Like, no matter what you say about him, he is a number 1 corner to me. And I think that this kind of proved that they're overpaying him, considering they haven't had a number 1 in so long that they just were like, please don't leave. We really need to keep you on the team because we haven't had one of you in forever. So we really need you to stay. And so they go out and give him $18.4 million for the 5 years. Also, the last year of this contract is capable of, like, you can cut him for no loss at all in that final year. So that is a clause that I wanted to mention as well. But I do like the extension for the 49ers. They finally lock up a cornerback that's not, Jason Verrett, former Charger, who injury prone to hell and back,
which sucked because he was so good when he played.
Dude, I know. Or like a past his prime Richard Sherman. So nonetheless, I still think no matter what that in his 24 years of life, he's better than us. But anyway, I
one of the greatest interviews ever.
Dude, that was that's so sad on Skip's part on his own show to be disrespected like that. It's crazy.
If he didn't deserve it though, he was disrespecting Sherman.
Yeah, no, he was too. Yeah, he was dishing it back. Yeah, it's crazy, but either way, I like the extension from the Niners. Obviously, I think it's a little bit of an overpay. I think 15 to 16 would have been fair for him. I think like somewhere in that 5-year, $80 million range would have worked. But I feel like at the same time, that final year, that clause in that final year, being able to just cut him for no loss at all in that final season, also obviously makes it have to pay a little bit more for that. But
also, the salary cap's going up so much that
in a couple years
right now will look like 15 mil. So yeah,
right.
I get it. I think it's a good contract for them because they locked up their guy. They're kind of betting on him to start playing better and earning that contract, which that's what you want to do if you want to build a championship. You have to bet on your guys. You have to draft and we have to retain. Sometimes it bites you in the ass, like some of these Bills contracts. Like I guess Trey White, due to injury, bit us in the ass. The Dawson Knox one, the Von Miller, due to injury, bit us in the ass. Like sometimes it happens, but then you also get where you get Josh Allen at $40 million a year while he being paid as like the 13th best quarterback in football, even though he is
number 2 or 1,
the number 2 or number 3 best quarterback in football, depending on where you spin it. And then you get someone like Deion Dawkins and Spencer Brown. You're paying them $20 million or under, and they're playing like top tackles in the league. Sometimes, yeah. Or Matt Milano's getting paid $13 million. He's getting paid like I don't even think a top 10 off-ball linebacker, and when fully healthy, I think he's
Logan Wilson literally reset the market with like $16 million a season.
Yeah, exactly. Matt Milano's getting like 13.
Wilson is actually, fun fact, Logan Wilson's the only other player from Josh Allen's team that's actually in the NFL.
Yeah, the other one that made the league was Jacob Hollister, but then he fizzled out.
And Gentry.
Oh yeah, and Alshon Gentry. And then with Milano getting $13 million a year or whatever.
Gentry.
No, yeah, same thing. But anyways, Matt Milano getting that $13 million a year. The only linebacker who's definitively better with how bad Roquan's been playing is Fred Warner. Yes, probably Roquan because we haven't. I'll put Roquan ahead of him still because we haven't seen Milano play this year. While Roquan's been bad, we just haven't seen Milano. Just be like, Milano can pass him.
Right.
But there's an argument because of how bad Roquan's been this year, but. Definitively, obviously, Fred Warner's head and shoulders above everyone else. He's clearly one. And
there's Fred Warner, and then here's the rest.
Yeah, So that happens. Like when you bet on your guys, there's the risk of it not panning out, but then there's the risk of you getting them at a value. Same thing for, I guess, leading into our next topic. I because there's not really much that I want to talk about rest of NFL. A bunch of games
Yeah.
happened. But moving on to our next topic, players like on the Sabres, Tage Thompson is worth way more than $7 million a year. Dylan Cousins is worth way less than $7 million a year right now. Matthias Samuelson is not worth the dirt on my shoe, and he's getting paid $4 million a year. Like sometimes you bet on players and they kick ass. Sometimes you bet on players and they suck ass. It's part of it. But as I said, we're moving into our Sabres talk. We didn't really talk too much about I don't think we talked about the Sabres at all last episode.
No, we didn't.
Yeah. So, I mean, there's been a lot of games, but overall, the past, week and a half, 2 weeks, the Sabres have played pretty good. I mean, we went into New York and we dominated the Rangers and we dominated the Senators, then we dominated the Rangers, then we beat Calgary. And then, of course, I go to the game and we lose.
Yeah, thanks for that.
Where both teams decided they just didn't want to play goalie. And then Jacob Bryson and Owen Power must have still been sleeping because their zombies were out there. I saw after the fact on Twitter, there was like an analytics chart that like showed like how good each player on the Sabres played. And like every player, either like all the forwards and stuff were basically like elite, really good. And then Dahlin and Byram, actually, they were like the top two. They were like analytically, I don't know what the analytics were, but like they were the two best. And then obviously like our forwards were all there. And then there was like then it kind of
Bryson.
Then it like dropped down. And then everyone was either like really good, average, or a little bit below average. And then you had Byron, or then you had Power and Bryson were so god awfully bad. They were all the way far. Like the graph was like, here's like the middle line. It was like this. And then if you were on this side, or I guess this side, you're like a really, really good. And then if you're on this side, you're like really, really bad. Dahlin and Byram were like all the way far, like all the way
left. Yeah.
And then Power and Byram are all the way far right. Like,
Ooh.
yeah, it was really bad. I'm like, ooh, like, yeah, I don't know what it is. I think it's kind of shown with how good Byram has now been with Dahlin that our need isn't a right shot number one defenseman. It's a right shot number two, second line defenseman to pair with Byram or Power. Because I like Bryson, but the thing is, when you put Power with Byram, Byram's too offensive, so then it puts pressure on Power too much defensively. And then you put him with Bryson, he's too defensively, and it puts too much pressure on Power offensively. You need to find someone who is a little more balanced, so it takes pressure off of Power, so he doesn't have to like try so hard on once. Yes,
please.
Yes. Yeah, give me someone. Rasmus Anderson sounds perfect. Maybe someone from Pittsburgh if they decide to blow it up, or
Chris
maybe
Letang?
someone from the Sharks. I know they just trade for someone from Detroit? Was that a forward or a defenseman? Where it was like a salary dump
in the offseason? It was a salary dump, which is weird to me because Jake
because
Walman
he's been playing really good.
Yeah, and they ended up adding a second-round pick for a fourth-round pick. So they traded Jake Walman in the second for a fourth.
He's a defenseman, right?
Yeah.
Is he a right shot?
He is a right shot.
It may be him.
I don't know. He's a little bit inexperienced. I want a guy that's a veteran presence, that's experienced, that's still not washed yet. So like 28 through 31, and Rasmus Anderson's 29. Rasmus Anderson has 2 more years left on his deal at 4.6, which is very reasonable for the kind of defenseman he is. Had 51 points on an awful Calgary team last year and led the team in plus or minus, even though their team was completely ass.
No, I agree. He should be number one. I'm just saying if that doesn't work out, other options.
Yeah, that's fair.
He's another good option. Maybe someone on Anaheim or
I think all it would take
Seattle.
Anderson is a first-round pick. I really do.
Someone on Nashville.
Maybe like a decent prospect like
someone on Chicago, someone on St. Louis, someone on Pittsburgh, Philly, maybe the Islanders.
Dylan DeMello are 2 dark horse guys to look forward as well.
Yeah,
Dylan DeMello would be that perfect number 2 D-man as well. He's on a 4-year deal, $5 million AAV. So he's fits that. He's 30 years old on the dot right now too. So we'd have him for a while. He's a veteran guy, a lot like that Eric Johnson we really wanted on that right side that just didn't work out. He'd be the perfect, like, better version of Eric Johnson. He doesn't offer much offensively, but he is a shutdown defenseman, which is what you want. And if you really want to embrace that Lindy Ruff mentality, go for a Colton Parayko. The one thing about him is he makes $6.5 million a season for the next 3 years, which is absolutely god-awful considering he's already 32. But if they retain some salary and we throw in a first-round pick for him, just first-round pick for a little bit retained salary, I think St. Louis would pull the trigger on that with how they're retooling the team. And on top of that, he's a 6'4", 231-pound defenseman as well. So absolute behemoth of a man. If you really want to embrace that physical mentality that Lindy Ruff likes, you can go out and get him. He'd fit the second line perfectly with Owen Power because you got Power to play that offense. And then that guy you can lean on to play full defense, that's Colton Parayko. So that would be the perfect mesh for Power in this situation. But again, if you really want to get fancy with it and just be able to switch up the lines how you please, Rasmus Anderson's the ultimate flexibility guy. If you want a guy that makes a lot of sense for the system, it's Dylan DeMello. And if you want the guy that embraces the mentality that fits with Power, that's Colton Parayko. Those are my top 3 guys heading into the deadline, even though that's so far away.
Yeah, no, I think definitely because especially now with
Can you tell I played hockey?
Yeah, now with Benson being back, the second line has actually been cooking these last couple of games. It's been looking pretty good for the most part. Cousins is playing better. Benson's looking really good. Jack Quinn still sucks ass though. I don't know what it sucks because I love Jack Quinn. I was really hoping we were all calling.
I'm so sorry to say this because this might hurt your heart as it will hurt mine as well. But if at the deadline he's still playing like this, I wouldn't be surprised if he's in a package deal to get someone.
Yeah, I think he's definitely someone that could be gone. And then
I think we really need somebody
our
else.
First line is insane. Tage Thompson.
Always talk Thompson, Paterka.
Please be healthy, Tage Thompson.
Oh,
please
yeah.
be Tage Thompson.
Please,
our Lord and Savior. Please, Tage Thompson, come save us. Please, Tage Thompson, come save us. Like, I mean, we need him.
Ever, though, that we lost 3 games in a row and then won 3 games in a row. One thing about the Sabres team that scares me
is then we play a team on a 6-game losing streak who was in last place in the league, and then we let them drop 7 goals on us.
Yeah, that sounds about right. The one thing is with Buffalo that's really scaring me here is the close games we just can't seem to find ways to win. That Florida Panthers game was really close. It was 2-2 at one point. We lost 5-2. We lost 4-3 to the Islanders 2 days later. And then the next day we lost 2-1 against 2-1 we lost to Detroit. And then dominating win over the Senators, dominating win over the Rangers. We can blow out teams. We just can't win those close games.
We can't hold on to leads.
Yeah, exactly. That Calgary game, we were up 2-0. Blew it. Almost lost it in overtime 3 different times, including giving up a penalty.
It's like when we're winning close in the third, we get complacent.
A shootout goal.
Yeah. It's like when we're winning in the third, if it's close, we get complacent.
Yeah.
The Kings game, Detroit game, the Calgary game.
The puck, we're just dumping it in. We're not playing offense anymore. We're just trying to hold it on defense.
And we're just not good enough defensively to be able to do that. It's not our type of team. We're the type of team that's going to push the pace and outscore you. So when we're winning, we have to keep pushing the pace to outscore you. Put the goal, because especially with how fast-paced hockey is, a 2-goal lead is basically a 1-goal lead at this point. Teams can score like that. You gotta, if you want to feel comfortable, you really got to start put 3, 4, 5-goal lead on the board, and then you can start running things.
Oh yeah, exactly. And then obviously we get to that Canadiens game, a game that. The one game I was super confident about after obviously we have the BSI show we do as well for Buffalo Sports Insider. That show, the one game I was actually confident about out of the Rangers, Flames, and Canadiens was the Canadiens game. And that's the one game we freaking lose. How?
The Sabres are the most bipolar team
always.
And the NHL.
Always will be for the rest of the time. Also, with that being said, we are 7-8-1. We have the 15 points right now. We are third in the division, like third worst in the division wise. We are 6th right now. 7 is Detroit, who I believe has 2 less points. Hold on. Yeah, they have 2 less points, but they've also played 2 less games. And then Montreal has played the same number of games with just 12 points on the season after that win against us. They are 5-9-2. Overall, in the conference, the Sabres are the 9th best team in the conference right now, 1 point out of a playoff spot, just trailing hold on a minute. Who is that above us? That is the Boston Bruins and Tampa Bay Lightning, who have played the same number of games as us. The Lightning have and have the same number of points. Sorry, that's not true. The Bruins have played the same amount of games as us and have one more point, and the Lightning have two less games played with the same point total as the Sabres, who have the tiebreaker in that last spot. But right now, the Blue Jackets and Canadians are tied for 16. And then 14 is the Penguins, Flyers, and 14 is the Red Wings. 13 and 12 are the Penguins and Flyers there, who are also in that mix. So that's interesting as well. But nonetheless, I do think that this team is very good. As Alex's Wi-Fi cut out, so it's just me here to wrap up the show. Buffalo has been very good these last couple of games, obviously losing to the Montreal Canadiens. But nonetheless, Sabres team is a very good team. They're finding their groove right here in the beginning half of the season, which is nice to see considering like years in past, they just haven't seemed to get much going. Unfortunately, Alex will not be able to make it for the rest of the show, most likely. But thank you guys so much for watching another episode of the Sports Lab podcast. I'm Thomas Bailey. For my buddy Alex Miley, I'll sign off for him. Thank you guys so much for watching, and we will see you all next time on Buffalo, the Sports Lab podcast.